when I was a kid, we had a favorite place to play, which was a city dump. And it was a place just to dig around and find interesting treasures, I guess, like a little treasure hunt. And it was only a couple of us as my cousins and a couple of cousins, and that was about it. It wasn't like there was a bunch of kids around. It was just us. It was like this secret place, and I remember I would get so addicted to finding stuff there that I remember I went on my own one day. I just wanted to check out, see what's going on there, because each day there'd be a new thing left behind, and for some reason the workers were never there. So I took a little shovel about this big with a little blue handle, I remember, and I had it with me, and I rode my bike up the hill and climbed behind the fence, which is always a little scary because you're out in the middle of nowhere. And walking around, and I see this little magazine poking out of the dirt. And I was like, all right, started digging around, and it happened to be a porno magazine. I was like, oh, jackpot. So I pulled it out, and underneath, I remember there was like these pieces of shards of glass and stuff, but there was another one. So I was like, okay. And I kept pulling and pulling and digging and pulling and digging until I was standing on a mountain of porn. There must have been 10,000 magazines, literally. I remember I was like counting them by the thousands. I dug up 10,000 magazines by myself. And I grew up in a very conservative household. I mean, to be caught with anything, a Playboy magazine, you'd be beaten, senseless. So I was like in heaven. So I found, let me cover this lens here. So I had this treasure that there's no way I was able to transport 10,000 magazines home. So I decided to just take my favorites. So I went home, got the biggest garbage bag I could find, this big black garbage bag you use for leaves and stuff, and just packed it with porn and put it on the top of my bicycle, and I'm kind of wiggling it down the hill trying to get home, praying to God that no one from my family or neighbors stopped me and say, what's inside that giant garbage bag? So I took it home. There was no way. I remember thinking, how could I get it up to my room? This bag of... so what I did was I put it down. We have a hill behind our backyard. I put it down the hill and covered it with some leaves. And I was like thinking, I want to go back and check out my bag. So I remember the next day I went down to the hill, and the bag was empty. Obviously someone came along and just scooped up, my dreams. But I ended up going back up to the dump and picking out my favorites and digging more and finding more, and it was a strange influence for like a 10-year-old, or 9 maybe, to have no exposure whatsoever to the human body, to sexuality, to anything like that. And the next step, boom, you're in the middle of, the most twisted, people barfing on each other and then eating it and having sex and hermaphrodites and every type of sex you could possibly imagine. Everything was exposed to me at that time, which I think influenced me later on. When you see my erotic elements in my sculptures, in my sci-fi work, it just kind of stayed with me. So anyway, I ended up finding my favorites. I remember finding a book on just vaginas, women with their legs spread open, and I had never seen the vagina. I never knew what it looked like, and it was like, oh my God, this is awesome, and I wanted to draw stuff, and anyway, at a certain point I got so sick and nauseous about porn. I was like, oh, this is so dirty. So I threw away all the magazines and kind of washed my hands of it, and never looked at pornography again. Never. It was like it was out of my system, But then when I got to art college, we would get these illustration assignments, and a lot of the stuff that I would do had this erotic tone to it. I think it was because of the magazines that I was exposed to, or maybe, I don't know what it was, but it was something that was inside of me that was exposed. So I always had this kind of a erotic side to my work, which I think was ignited because of those things that I discovered when I was 10 years old. So anyway, jump forward 18, 17 years old. Of course, I wanted to go to art college. That was my dream. So I applied to, my guidance counselor said that Pratt Institute was the best school in the country, and I was like, all right, I'm going to Pratt. So I applied, got in, and I loved it. I learned so much there, and was so just so excited to go to figure drawing class and illustration class and graphic design and painting and sculpture, on and on and on. But I was a bit frustrated because my stuff was so tight. And I remember my junior year I met a teacher, his name was Dave Ponzalacqua, and he totally opened up my world to looking at art books and becoming inspired and studying and letting the study be the work that you do, not necessarily performance. Not necessarily, this is what I do, look what I'm doing, but no, look what I'm discovering, look what I found, look what I can utilize for my point of view, for whatever the heck I want to do in the future. So I'm looking at Picasso, I'm looking at Michelangelo, looking at Egon Schiele and Hans Belmer and Heinrich Klee and everybody and anybody, Van Gogh. But in the back of my mind, I always wanted to take all this stuff and plug it in to my own films eventually, my own science fiction films. At Pratt Institute at that particular time, they were against science fiction, no comic books, no animation, no fantasy, none of that stuff. It was all poo-pooed on, and we were pushed to do fine art and focus on that, which was fine. I think that's what I needed anyway. So when I graduated college, I felt a little bit lost because there was no more assignments. There was nothing to do. I had complete freedom, and I didn't know what to do, and I just kept going to figure drawing classes. And I had like a little conversation with a friend of mine, and she said, "Well, what would you want to do? If you could do anything in the world, forget about college, forget about everything. What would you want to do?" And I said to her, and I was a little embarrassed, I said, well, I would love to work on the new Star Wars films. And she was like, what Star Wars films? And I was like, well, I don't know. I assume that eventually, someday, George Lucas is going to do new Star Wars films. I would kill to work on those films. And I would love to do a portfolio for that. And she said, well, do that. And it just kind of struck me like a thunderbolt, like, oh my God, yeah, why? Do that. And take all the art influence that I already acquired and do that. So I did that. I would still go to the Museum of Natural History, the Metropolitan Museum, but instead of just copying the sculptures, I would be redesigning C-3PO, or redesigning Darth Vader, or redesigning Admiral Akbar, not having any clue that there was ever going to be a new Star Wars film. And I sent my portfolio out to Lucasfilm. I finally found the address and sent it out. And they sent me back this devastating letter that no artist would ever want to receive, which was, we love your work. We have you on the short list for doing costumes for the next Star Wars films. Oh, I was like, what? I was like shocked. The work that I was doing is all, drawings and Crayola crayons. That's all I had the money for, was Crayola crayons. So I was like, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. So what I did, I don't know if this was a good or a bad thing, probably a bad thing, is I kept sending them more work. Please, please. There was 3 people in line, supposedly, to work on the Star Wars films. And I was shitting a brick. And I think it was a long ass time. It was like 6 months, maybe a year, and they still haven't gotten I haven't gotten the word if I got it or not. And I was just fit to be tied. So previously to this, I had done the Disney internship and did that in Florida, and now I was back in New York. So I'm caught in between these worlds. So I decided, fuck it, I'm just going to go to California, go to San Francisco. So I had a friend who from the Disney internship who was living in San Francisco. I would go to visit him, my friend Mike, go to Lucasfilm and convince them that I'm the perfect person for the job. Take them out to lunch, and I just had to do it. So I went out there and talked to whoever I was supposed to talk to, and I could not get anyone to meet with me. They're like, John, we like your work. You're still on the short list. Just relax. And I was like, no, you don't understand. I gotta. So anyway, I ended up not being frustrated, not being able to meet anyone at Lucasfilm. Went up to Los Angeles and met up with a friend of mine, my friend Joe Pepe at Disney, who we met in the internship in Florida. And we're just hanging out in his cubicle, and we were looking through a Cinefex magazine. So ironic, we're looking at, he had the actual original Cinefex for Alien, and we were both like drooling over this Alien Cinefex book. He was working on, I think it was Hercules or Hunchback at the time. And his supervisor came in and asked me, who are you? And I said, I am nobody. Why are you here distracting my artist? And I said, sorry. And he said to me, kind of funny, he said, are you an artist? And I said, yeah. And he said, do you have a portfolio? And I said, yeah, I have it in my car. And he said, do you have a demo reel? Do you have done animation before? And I said, yes, I did. I did the internship in Florida years ago, or maybe it was a year ago. And he said, bring it in, let's take a look. So we brought it in, and he looked at my stuff, and he said, you should be a special effects artist. And I was like, ooh, special effects. So I said, I'm waiting on Lucasfilm. Can you please hold on? And they were like, well, we are in crunch time. We need some artists. If you're interested, we can train you, blah, blah, blah. So I went back to New York and thought about it and called Lucasfilm. I was like, I'm going to Disney. This is your last chance. And they said, well, we don't have time. We don't have the, the time now to give you an answer. So you might as well just take the Disney thing. So I was like, all right, whatever. So I packed up all my stuff, packed up my family, and off to Disney we went. So I was there. I was working in special effects. Wasn't too happy with that. Clawed my way out of special effects and into visual development, which was much more towards what I wanted to do, which is design. So I was working on Kingdom of the Sun, Atlantis, a whole bunch of films. I worked on 10 films there, which was great. But I remember I got a call or something from John Musker. We're interested in you. I mean, they took me into their office, and they said, we like your work. Would you be interested in working on Treasure Planet? And I almost burst into tears because it was the closest thing to Star Wars as I could imagine. Working on creatures and spaceships all day long, and I was like, oh my god, yes, I would love to do that. And I said, but can you hold off for a couple of weeks? I'm going to Florida to work with my teacher, Dave Pazlacqua. And they said, sure. And I remember thinking, oh my god, I'm turning down my dream to pursue learning how to be a better artist. But anyway, it worked out fine. I came back, worked on Treasure Planet. So I was working on Treasure Planet, doing crap loads of drawings. And I remember thinking, you could mix anything. You can mix a frog with a daisy and come up with some interesting creature. It was just cranking out drawings. It was like so excited that I got tired, and I was like, oh my god, I can't do this anymore. So I said, and they said, well, we need to come up with this character Scroop, which is this black spider dude. They said it to a bunch of artists. I was one of them. And if any of you want to take a crack at it over the weekend, because we need to start cranking out the storyboards, we need to have a design. And I thought to myself, well, there's no way I'm going to be able to compete with all these amazing designers. I was like the youngest, I was like a kid there. So I said, what if I sculpted? Because I've already been practicing sculpting during my lunch breaks while I was doing all these other films. So I sculpted this black, it was in sculpting, I spray painted it black. I brought it to the meeting on Monday, had it covered in a plastic bag. I'm sitting in this long table and everyone's looking at it like, what the hell, what's in the bag? And I was like, ooh, well, we had to wait and see. So, you know, Ron and John get to the meeting and what's in the plastic bag, open it up, and they spent the whole meeting talking about this sculpture, which they liked. They liked the character, they liked looking at it, turning it around, this and that. And they said, would you like to sculpt all the main characters for Treasure Planet? I was just in heaven. I mean, literally, you know, plastic model parts and glue and clay. It was heaven on earth, really. I created my own little mini ILM in my cubicle at Disney. I was working on doing exactly what I wanted to do ever since I was a little kid. Greatest job I ever had. And then after a while, you know, moved on. Treasure Planet was done. Other films were coming along, and I really felt like I need to do my own movies. I've proven that I can do material to make directors happy, make producers happy. They like the work. We like it. It's cool, you know. But I needed to do my own films. I needed to start writing my own scripts. So I bit the bullet and switched gears and started focusing on that. You know, I ended up leaving Disney and, you know, going off in my own world to attempt to create my own movies. And at that point, I was looking for advice about my work, and I went to Cal Arts because my teacher, Pazalaco, went to Cal Arts, or went back when it was Chenard. And I showed my work to his teacher, Corny Cole, who was this master, incredible animator. And he looked through my work, didn't say anything except, would you be interested in teaching here? I was like, I don't teach, I'm not a teacher. So he said, well, I think you'd be a great person to teach something here. And I was like, wow, thank you, that's awesome. So I kind of went off and, you know, forgot about it. And then I thought to myself, well, let me give it a try. And at that stage, I think I was still doing freelance for Disney. And I went there, and they asked if I was interested in teaching character design, and I did it. And once I was with a group of students, and I was able to start talking about all the troubles and tribulations I was going through at Disney and trying to do my own thing, I just got so excited and showing my work, and I did this and that, and this isn't that good, and I was copying this artist, and I was learning from this and that. I got so jazzed and so excited that I realized that was my calling, I think. Also, the reason I started teaching was I wanted to direct film, and I wanted to feel more comfortable talking to a group of people. But once I got into that, I realized that I just loved talking, and I loved explaining my stories and seeing students' eyes brighten up and getting them excited about doing their own thing. I'd be talking about, here's the monster that I'm designing, and they would be excited about this cute little story that they're doing for their film. You know, it's all the same thing. It's us as artists doing their own thing. You know. So anyway, I ended up teaching there for 10 years. I've been teaching there, and I ended up teaching in other places. But in the back of my mind, I was always, you know, every time I showed my work, I'd be like, here's all the stuff I designed for Star Wars. I never got a chance to work for Lucasfilm. Boo-hoo. And many years later, I got this idea in my head, which was, I don't want to feel nervous about anything that I do. I don't want Disney to be looking at me, or Lucasfilm, or what if DreamWorks sees this, or what if Pixar sees my work and sees that I did an erotic drawing and never hire me. Blah, blah, blah. So I just fucking went crazy, and I just blasted all this erotic stuff onto the internet with the sole intention of never working for a studio again. not that working for a studio was bad, but I wanted to be an individual artist. I didn't want to be afraid of what an executive at this studio was going to think of me, you know? So I blasted all this stuff out and ended up getting banned from freaking everywhere. But one place saw my work before it got pulled down, and it was a film festival in Brazil. And they saw my short animated erotic thing that I did, or a clip of it, whatever. And they asked me if I was interested in going to Brazil to show my film, and I was like, holy moly, yeah, are you kidding? It was incredible. So I went to Brazil, saw and I was very well received, the work. And I ended up winning the film festival. You know, it was like, I got the award for hottest film in Brazil, whatever. So anyway, I come back to Cal Arts, happy as a clam. I'm doing my own thing. I'm sculpting. I'm creating monsters. I'm inspiring my students. Life is good, and I'm not influenced or having to answer to any studio at all. I'm free. That day, when everything I felt I was the freest, my supervisor, Frank Terry, came to me and said, Lucasfilm called. They heard about you. They heard about all the creative things you're doing. Would you be interested in teaching creativity in Singapore for Lucasfilm? And I was just like, what the? I couldn't believe it. You know, I couldn't believe it. But anyway, I said yes. And I ended up going to, to Lucasfilm and teaching their artists how to be more creative. I taught figure drawing, creative writing, sculpture, a whole slew of classes. And to top it off, I had a chance to meet my hero. They had this was funny, at Lucasfilm, someone said, I don't know who, someone said, he's coming. And I was like, excuse me, I'm new here, who is he? And they said, oh, you don't really need to know about that, just be ready in case he's here. And I'm like, what, who? And they said, well, we can't really say. And I was like, oh my God, George Lucas is coming to Singapore? He never comes to Singapore. So I ran into my sculpture class. I said to everybody, George Lucas is coming. Everyone, come finish your sculptures. Finish the heads. Get them painted up. He's coming. Probably. I don't know. Maybe. And I'm your teacher. And if he likes what I'm doing, maybe he'll put me on the next Star Wars film. I don't know. But so anyway, nothing was officially said that George Lucas was coming. But for me, in my mind, I thought even if there's 1% chance, I want to be ready. And so I got everyone to get their stuff ready. I put together this gallery space of all this work that we did. You know, I was proud of what we did, but I also wanted to show it to George Lucas, and he showed up. So anyway, the day came, and the word was out. Okay, he is coming. And we're like, who? Him. And holy shit! Oh my God, he's coming. And to make you calm, to relax you, they would say, he's an hour away. And I don't know if it was through emails or something. Okay, he's 20 minutes away. He's 10 minutes away. He's 5 minutes away. He's coming around the corner. I was like, and I'm like sending messages on Facebook like, he's almost here. So I was freaking out, and I was sitting in my little cubicle space, and I was like, I cannot miss this guy. If he's coming around the corner, I'm not going to miss him. So I stood up straight, and my assistant, Esther, was like, who, why? And I was like, don't. So I stood up, just waiting for him to come around the corner, because I am not going to miss him. I've waited since I was 10 years old to see this man. He's my hero, and he comes around the corner. And they said before, don't talk to him or whatever, or she's shy, and don't shake his hand or whatever. But I was like, so he's around the corner. He's right around the corner. So I stood up, right? I was like, I'm not going to miss this guy. And he comes around the corner, and I see him, and I'm like, oh my God, that's George Lucas. He had a group of people around him. And I put out my hand. I'm like, and came up to me, shake my hand, and he said, I love what you're doing. This is some of the best stuff that's happening at Lucasfilm now. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I was very calm. I didn't crap in my pants. I didn't stutter. I was like, well, thank you very much. Yeah, it's a pleasure to meet you. You're, yeah, huge influence on me. And that was it. I just let him, I couldn't say anything else. But he just started talking about the idea of taking the Western art and mixing it with the Asian art and creating this new sense, this new fusion of ideas and stuff like that. He's very much into education, very calming. He reminded me of my teacher, Dave Pozlacqua, just very knowledgeable, very humble, very quiet. And I remember thinking, and then he left and went around the corner to check out different parts of, I guess, what was going on where they were working on the Clone Wars at the time. And I remember thinking, wow, I really felt very comfortable around this man. I want to be around those type of people. I want to work with people that have a history and have gone through things and stuff like that. I was very calm, and I met George Lucas, my hero. I can I can relax. I've accomplished one of my goals. So then Tad Leckman, my supervisor, comes over 5 minutes later, and says, John, George seems to be really happy with what you're doing. Would you be interested in teaching some of this creativity back in Los Angeles at the ranch, at the Skywalker Ranch? And I was like, what? I was like, oh my God. I actually fell on the floor and started crying. I'm like, oh my God. And he's like, shut up, be quiet. He's right around the corner. He's going to hear you crying. And I just totally lost it. I just became that little kid again. And that was really fully my dream, was to go to Skywalker Ranch, the place that all this was created, and be able to connect with those people. So yeah, I did. I went to Skywalker Ranch and I taught the supervisors, the whole room full of supervisors from the game department, the feature film department, all these different departments. And I was talking about, I had a big screen in front of me and I was talking about film design. I was pointing out what's happening with this in this film and having them draw and talking about shapes and design and stuff like that. And it was like everything just came full circle. And the reason I like to tell a story was because a lot of you that may be looking at this may be thinking you're the same way. You have your heroes that you want to meet or places that you want to be. And how do you get there? Is it from clawing your way to climbing the ladder and meeting the right people and shaking hands and going to the right classes? Or is it just taking a breath, stepping back, focusing on what you really want to do and just doing it without getting paid a penny, just doing what you want to do in your little room, in your little cubicle, in your little space, doing what you're excited about. And those people, like a magnet, will come to you. It's a strange thing. My teacher told me that when I was in school, and I thought, that's so corny, but kind of cool. I wish that was true. I'm going to follow you because I trust you. You're my mentor. But you never really totally believe it until it happens. And I've had that happen so many times in the past couple of years. Many, if not all, of the people that I admire, I've met. All except for Steven Spielberg and Francis Coppola. Besides those two people, which I hope to meet someday, everybody else I've met, here in Hollywood and stuff like that. And this book, Inspiration Now, is all about that. It's about monsters and horrific imagery and ZBrush creatures and things, but the essence of the book is about us, meaning you and me, us following our passions and becoming happy with the life that we have. Now, does that mean you might be a famous film director, or you might be an artist that teaches preschool kids, but you're happy with what you're doing? And you want to inject happiness into your life. You can inject 10% happiness, 20% happiness, 100% happiness into what you're doing. But it's all about pursuing those goals, those ideas, those things that make you happy. I do it now. I do it all day long. I sculpt. When I'm not sculpting, I'm teaching. When I'm not teaching, I'm studying filmmaking, or I'm making films, or I'm helping my friends make their films. I just get more and more excited every day. I just can't wait to get out of bed. I leap out of bed every day, and I have a whole to-do list of things that I want to do. So I found this thing. I'm done. I found my goal. Now it's just taking this stuff and sharing it with the world. The only final goal that I have is to see my film, see my creatures, my own film, in the AMC theater, in a big theater with people seeing my movie. Whether it's successful or not, that's my final goal. And this book is going to take me to that place. It's going to help get my name out there, going to get my creatures out there, so that people can see it and give me a chance to make my own film, or at least give me a little bit of money so that I can start putting together some small, low-budget movies. So when I was at CTN recently working for CalArts again, I was at the CalArts table, and someone came up to me, and he said, wow, that's your book. And this was the book that I'm going to use for Kickstarter. And he said, this would be a great Kickstarter project. And I was like, oh, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And, and many people have said they like the book, and I was like, oh, great, thank you. Kickstarter, yeah, I've heard of Kickstarter. And he said, no, you got to do it, and he started flipping through the book, and he's like, you see this stuff where you're gluing these squirt guns together, then you turn it into a spaceship? People would love that. It's nostalgic, right? It reminds them of the way things used to be when we would create models and things and plastic, and gluing things together to create sci-fi films, before all the CG. You got to pitch it that way. That's got to be your angle. And I was like, oh, yeah, thank you. And I said, well, by the way, who are you? And he said, oh, yeah, I actually won the top award for Kickstarter. I made the most money ever for Kickstarter, and I'm going to be doing a Kickstarter seminar tomorrow. And I was like, holy shit. And I was like, holy crap. It's like this guardian angel literally came from the heavens and said, here's what you got to do. Here's the solution to all your problems. So of course I went to the seminar, wrote down notes and wrote down everything, and I've been following his advice to the letter, hoping to get this project off the ground. And I appreciate so many people that have supported my work all these years. And we're at the final stretch now, and I know my gut that if I can get this book published and it's out there, that people see the work, that the wheels will start turning and things will start moving towards me doing my own films. So anyway, you as the viewer are going to help me achieve my goal. The reward that you get is to get the book. And hopefully you're going to be inspired to do your own type of work, but you're going to be part of something, and it's a statement that we're all making, is that we don't have to answer to these higher people above us to be creative. We can do it ourselves. We can fund it ourselves. We can create these projects on our own. We're tired of the same stuff that we see in Hollywood every day, and we wanted to see something different, and we can put our money towards that, and we can do it. We're not just sitting there in the chair saying, oh my God, we've seen this a million times, So anyway, I'm really excited for the possibilities of this thing happening, and it's up to you to make it happen. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see what happens.